Hello and welcome to A Trip to the Movies, the podcast where each week a special guest takes us on an incredible journey as they curate their perfect night out at our fantastic virtual cinema. This week we are joined by a brilliant actor nominated for an international Emmy for her very first role in Sky TV's The Runaway, and who has since gone on to star in everything from last year's gripping BBC thriller The Control Room to DC's Legends of Tomorrow to the excellent martial arts drama Warrior, and who can currently be seen in Irvin Welsh's brilliant Crime, which has just been added to ITVX ahead of season 2 this autumn. Taking us on today's trip to the movies, it's the supremely talented Joanna Vanderham. Hello, Joanna. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. So that was just a little snippet of your CV there. Did I include the right things? Are you happy with that introduction?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hell of an introduction. I think if you could just follow me around and go into rooms ahead of me from now on, that would be really helpful. Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned a couple of my fave shows, and the ones that have got especially Warrior, it's got this kind of very enthusiastic fan base. It's one of the few shows where I'm receiving fan art, which I love. And it's always quite funny to see how people see you. And so I love getting sent those. And I think that takes a specific type of show to really capture people's imagination, to encourage them, to inspire them to go on and make more art out of it. So yeah, love Warrior, loved filming The Control Room, and can't wait to talk about Crime.
Yeah, I love Warrior, because period dramas aren't normally my go-to. However, period dramas with some kick-ass fights, some of which was directed by the brilliant Justin Lin. Now we're talking.
Yeah, I mean, he's a bit of a legend in the business, isn't he? And such a nice man. I think that was one of the things about Warriors. It really did feel like we were just one big kind of company working together. So even though my character didn't necessarily do any stunts, I had one scene where I was kind of flipped over and landed on the pavement. But I got to go and work out with everyone every day, and I kind of got to be in the training studio, and that was a real bonding exercise, because you're up at the crack of dawn and you are sweating it out. We were filming in South Africa, so it was hot, and that is a real bonding experience, I think. So when you've kind of gone through that together, you feel like you can kind of handle anything. And we were just then so excited for people to see the show, because as you say, it's a period drama with a twist. And I'd kind of got to the point where I was like, I've done a few period dramas. I'm not sure, I'd focused on moving into more contemporary stuff. And when this role came up, I was like, do you know what? This woman is a contemporary woman. She's a businesswoman, and she's trying to kind of change the world. And I thought there was something really that I related to in her in that sense. So I kind of loved getting to bring her to life, even though they did the dramatization thing of putting their characters through hell. So it was never easy for her. It was never easy for anyone. And that was what made it such a good drama.
And you said you filmed that in South Africa. Whereabouts were you in South Africa?
Yeah, so we were in Cape Town, the Cape Town studios there. And interestingly enough, that's where I filmed The Runaway, which is the other show that you mentioned, my first ever show. So there was a really nice kind of sense of coming home, because I'd filmed there sort of 8 years prior. And a lot had changed, but it still has a really special place in my heart. The weekend you could just drive up to Stellenbosch and go wine tasting. So that was kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
Wow. Yeah, I've not actually been to Cape Town. I went to Durban, and a lot of the South African crew I worked with in Durban were like, yeah, you want to go to Cape Town. Cape Town's the real place you want to go. It's absolutely beautiful. Apparently it's stunning. And did you go in the sea though? Because I hear it's a shark hotspot, Cape Town. There's a lot of sharks off that coast. It
is a shark hotspot, but it's also absolutely freezing. I can't remember which ocean it is. People will let me know. But I didn't go in because it was so cold. But have you heard about this duo of orcas that are patrolling off the coast of South Africa? And they've found at least 5 great white sharks have been washed up with their livers missing. And they're blaming it on these 2 orcas they're called Port and Starboard, because their fins point, their dorsal fins curve over. And so they've like chased the great white sharks out of the area. And they don't really know what that's going to do to the ecosystem. So like scientists are kind of watching it, waiting to see like what effect that's going to have to like the whole ecosystem, because they're obviously like apex predators. So I just thought that was like super interesting. So if we had gone, we wouldn't have seen any sharks anyway.
Yeah, I did read about that. It's weird, because it's not something that orcas do with the amount of frequency that port and starboard are doing. It's a very rare occurrence, and it's the liver bit that's sort of weird. It's almost Hannibal Lecter like It's like we're not just killing the sharks, we're specifically eating their livers with a nice Chianti.
Absolutely, going straight for the fatty bit that has all that energy in it. Seems so wasteful to me, but
yeah. And now, before we get into some of the other shows that I want to talk about, you wanted to be an actor from the day one, didn't you? As far as I understand it, it was like from an early age, you kind of knew this was the profession that you wanted to embark on.
Pretty much. I think I was 6 or 7, and I found out that 2 of my friends in primary school were going to this drama club. And I wanted to hang out with them. I was like, I want to be involved in this. And then I went, and we were doing the story of Tam O'Shanter. I don't know if you know it at all, but I have to familiarize myself with it, because I actually tell this story and then I forget what the story's about. I just remember that there's this drunken guy called Tam, and he is making his way home, and he basically is out after midnight, and then he gets chased by witches, and the like lead witch chases him and like grabs his horse's tail and pulls the tail off as he jumps over this body of water, because they're not allowed to, the witches can't cross the water. And so it was this kind of like visceral, terrifying, I was like 6 and thinking like there are witches outside that are going to chase me if I'm out after midnight. And I got to play one of the witch. I think I was like the lead witch, and my mom and my dad and my family had to come and watch us. And in my head, this was like the production values. It was like we were there. We had like transported everybody. And realistically, we were probably just running around in a community center. And like, but in my mind, it was so real and so transportive, that kind of first experience was like, I was like, oh, this is such an incredible feeling. And then when I was in high school, I realized that I could actually do this for a career, and did all the auditions for drama school and stuff, and ended up getting into Royal Welsh College in Cardiff when I was 17. So it was sort of something that I had a real passion about. And then when I was deciding what I wanted to do, I was like, I have to give this a go. I can't look back on my life and wish that I had. So I was very lucky that my parents were like, okay, you can see if you get into drama. It's always been that thing of like, see if you get in. Okay, see if you get a job. Okay, see if you get another job. And like, even now, my parents aren't relaxed. They're just like, oh, are you all right? When's the next one coming? And I'm like, I know. Tell me about it.
But do you not feel that though? Because it is a profession that is sort of, to a certain degree, based on waiting for the phone to ring, and obviously you build up a body of work, and the phone starts to ring more frequently. But I don't know about you, but in a similar way to my profession, when TV stuff, it's like when that phone doesn't ring, it can only be for like 2 weeks. You were like, that's it, I'm done, I'm finished, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone does have that, and also the sort of imposter syndrome of like when you get a job, being like, this is the one that they're going to find out that I can't do this. This is the one that's going to out me as being a total fraudster. But I think you sort of have to find a way to fill the time in a productive way. So I've written a play that I'm trying to produce, and I have I've got 2 TV series that I'm trying to produce as well. So I've sort of used that time when I'm waiting for, as you say, waiting for the phone to ring, to create stuff. And I think I'm at a point in my career where I feel like I'd love to have a say in the types of stories that I'm telling, and the types of stories that people are witnessing. And I think that's, we have a bit of a responsibility as kind of creatives and storytellers to be mindful of what people are consuming. And I feel like I would love to contribute to that. And so I've got a couple of different projects that I'm trying to convince other people that they should pay for.
And I guess it also takes the power back. It reduces the anxiety. I mean, I'm possibly speaking about myself here, but when you are doing stuff that is yours from the ground up and that you have, I guess, control over your destiny, it does help you relax and not be as panicked on such a frequent basis.
Totally. I mean, I think you are speaking a universal truth for artists, and especially for kind of people whose jobs rely on a production existing. You know, a musician could always just pick up their guitar and play on a Sunday afternoon, but it's not like I can just act in my house by myself. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that you can just, that muscle you can't exercise. So it does give you that sense of control, and it does also give you that sense of when the big auditions come in, you're not as nervous. You don't have that like, oh my God, my entire career is riding on this 20-minute meeting. And because you know with confidence in the back of your mind, well, actually, I have to go back to my house because I've got a deadline for this other thing. And I think there's something quite attractive. People lean into the idea that you have something else going on, and they would be lucky to kind of have you in their show. So it kind of all ties into that. And it stops me from just like doom scrolling on Instagram or like TikTok for hours on end. So it's kind of also self-help. Like, even if these things don't get made, it's like, I just feel like a better person for having been a creator rather than being a consumer of content.
Mm. And that responsibility that you're talking about being responsible for what you're putting on screen, as you're working on these scripts and these TV shows and your play, while you're still performing in other people's work, are you quite conscientious about the kind of roles you're picking and the tone and the themes in the shows that you're going to be a part of?
I think so. I think the main thing that attracts me is the character, and whether I feel like I'm going to be challenged by them, and obviously like the rest of the creative team. So when I saw the opportunity to be in crime, I was like, Irvine Welsh has written this, Dougray Scott is starring in this. Absolutely, I want to be involved, because they're, you know, such iconic people, especially in Scotland. Like we grew up on Irvine Welsh, and like getting to kind of be in one of his shows, but felt like I'd ticked a massive kind of Scottish box. But at the same time, like, he's making shows that I wouldn't necessarily approach, because like create, because of his life experiences. And so like the way that he grew up in Edinburgh, and I feel like he has a very unique voice and that allows him to kind of comment on what he does comment on, which is like corruption in the police force, the inequality in like between classes in Scotland, and how the police force then interact with each different type of kind of class as they see them. And that is something that I feel like he can write about so well that I wouldn't probably like. That's kind of why I love being in stuff, because I'm like, oh cool, you've come up with this and you've made it, and you've like brought it all the way through to fruition, where you're at a point where you get actors involved, which is actually like the last stage. And I think as an actor, you can start to think that you're the most important part, because you're the face and you get to go to all the screenings and you get to go to all the glamorous things and there are awards and stuff. But actually, it's like these projects have been in like the pipeline for years. Like, I think Dougray and Irvine have been trying to make Crime for a decade before it actually went into production. Yeah. So that was like their baby. And so I knew at that point that I was just kind of like one of the last pieces that was coming to kind of join a team. And you do have to switch off your producer brain at that point, and you just go like, this is the show that they're making, and how do I fit into this? As like, what's my kind of cog? What do I do in this machine? Which in and of itself is like another really cool challenge. So I love having kind of all of them.
And it's It's, I mean, obviously coming from the mind of Irvine Welsh, it's slightly grittier than your average police drama. And I'm right in thinking it's a sequel to a movie that I absolutely love, which is quite a weird thing to say when people see this movie. If anyone's seen it, you love that movie because it's like being punched in the gut. But Filth with James McAvoy is just such an incredible film.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the same kind of people as exist in that world. So we have, you're Ray Lennox and I play Amanda Drummond, and you've got Ken Stott playing Bob Toll, and they live in the same world as James McAvoy's character. And I think what's really exciting about the show is that it's like so even if fans of Irvine Welsh have read the novel Crime, it's actually the prequel to the novel, which is in and of itself a sequel to Filth, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's like this little sweet spot where you'll know all the characters and you'll know who's going, who's involved, but it's content that you haven't seen before and it's a storyline that you haven't seen before. And I think what was really fun about it is that, Irvine is in and of himself, he's like really quiet and unassuming and just very kind of gentle and soft, and you kind of don't expect that when you see his shows. But what he does do is that he sees characters kind of as they're never just one thing. No one's ever just good or just bad, and I think he pushes that to the extreme in his dramas, and that's what we get to see in Crime. So especially Dougray's character kind of struggling with his alcoholism and his drug addictions, and the case that we're trying to solve, it basically causes him to kind of unravel, and the way that he's been so tightly bound in order to kind of get through day-to-day life, it all starts to kind of peel away, and that's essentially what you're watching, as well as the procedural. So people who love like a kind of whodunit are going to love the show, but then there's the people who want something that's like a bit more of a kind of human-centric drama. We're gonna tick that box as well. So yeah, he did well.
Yeah, it's funny what you say about Irvine Welsh, because I had my preconceptions about the kind of guy he was going to be. I had the pleasure of hosting the Trainspotting 2 premiere in Edinburgh, and I met him for the first time, and he was just so at odds with this image I built up in my head of the man who wrote, Acid House and Trainspotting and Filth.
Yeah, absolutely. He's also much taller than I expected.
Yeah.
I expected this kind of small, angry man, and actually he's like a very suave, tall, absolutely contented gentleman who just, he has political opinions and he voices them, and I think he puts them into his characters. And by giving his characters strong opinions, people maybe sometimes mistake that for him having those opinions himself. And actually, I think what he's doing is making his characters have a conversation so that off screen, that conversation is raised in society. So I feel like it's easy to think of him as being kind of a bit fucked up, but he's not.
No, he's not at all. He's not at all. So obviously this is it was on BritBox initially. It's now moved to ITVX. Season 2 coming out. I mean, season 1 had such great reviews, both for the show and for yourself. When you see those reviews, do you allow yourself a moment to bask in positive reviews? Do you even read them?
I try not to, because I think even good reviews, they kind of miss like they miss the nitty gritty of what we've been trying to do, but we're so involved because we've spent so much more time on it that even the good ones, you think, oh, but you didn't talk about this. So I really try not to look. What was really kind of heartwarming is when Dougray won the Scottish BAFTA and then he went on to win the International Emmy. I was just so thrilled for him, because the effort, the work that he has put into creating this show and then playing the character, it was actually really inspiring to watch and to witness. And I think he really deserves that recognition, and hopefully that'll convince, this, because we are now going to be on ITVX and season 2 is coming out. I think having that kind of accolade will push people to watching the show, because they'll go, oh, it's been nominated and it's won, and that we should watch this. So, I'm just excited for more people to get to see what the world that we've created and what we've been working on. And in season 2, my character gets pushed even further. So there's a kind of, this is what I was, saying about Irvin never creates someone who's all good and all bad. And I think my character is quite convincing that she's got everything together, and she's figured her life out, and then slowly, like right at the end of the season, something happens that makes the audience go, oh my days, she doesn't know she's just as conflicted as everybody else. And then that really gets its airtime in season 2. So tune in for season 1, but stay for season 2.
Lovely stuff. And that is coming out this autumn. Vague date so far, but autumn is when it apparently is coming out, season 2. That's right. You don't have a date for me, just like if I'm a completionist on these things.
Sophie, do we have one?
It's fine. I'll stick it in the text. We don't need to say it here. I'll
no
find out.
I'll put it in. Not yet.
No
okay.
worries. Thanks, Sophie. That's great. All right then, Joanna, you are about to take us on your perfect night out at the cinema. You are our guide. We are your audience. Let's go on a trip to the movies. So, right? Big moment. We push open the doors to our temple of film and find ourselves in the foyer. There's an excited buzz, as there always is in a cinema foyer, the hum of anticipation. It's your perfect cinema trip, Joanna. Who have you picked, living or dead, to go with you?
So I have picked to go with me my best friend, Stuart. And I did think about bringing someone that was like an icon in my life. And then I realized that you're not really supposed to talk during the movies. So it would be a waste, and they would just sit there silently and I'd be staring at them, and it'd be really awkward. So I decided to bring my best friend Stuart, also because he's the one who will always text me and be like, this film is out, this film is coming out, let's get stuff in the diary. He really gets into the mood of kind of going to the cinema, but I do also have to kind of gear myself up for the fact that he's always late. So as I push open the foyer door, I know that I'm not looking for him. I'm going to stand in an obvious position and wait for him to arrive 10 minutes later.
How late? Are you going to miss the trailers? Because that would upset me.
Oh, we have missed the trailers on occasion. We've had to sneak in as the screen is being widened in slow motion. So we have been those annoying people at one point. I apologize.
But you're cool with that, right? Because Stuart, if you're picking him, I'm assuming you have a perfect cinema companionship. He is the right guy to watch a movie with. You talk at the same times, or you don't talk. You discuss it afterwards, or you don't. You're in cahoots.
Yeah, absolutely. So he does love a small whisper. I wouldn't say that he's distracting for anyone else. And we also have exactly the same sense of humor. So if one of us finds something funny, the other one will as well. And sharing that is kind of the joy of going to see a movie with someone, isn't it? So in that sense, he's absolutely the right person to go with. And we often will then go for a drink afterwards and fully analyze the film and break it down scene by scene, performance by performance, shot by shot. And what makes that interesting is that we, more often than not, we don't disagree. I mean, we don't agree.
Oh, okay, that's great. And you like that. You like the fact that you can have an argument about the film afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. He'll think that someone's performance was great and I'll think it's rubbish, or vice versa.
And how long have you been going to the cinema together? Was it an epiphany when you first went together and you were like, oh my God, you are the perfect cinema companion, Stuart?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first time we went, we were probably quite hungover, and I think he'd maybe stayed over at mine, and then the next day we were like, okay, what's going to make us feel better? What's going to pull us back out of this kind of, pit of despair? And we thought, we'll go to the cinema because we don't have to talk. We don't have to make any effort. We can just sit here and, drink our soda. And And it was after that that I kind of went, do you know what? We should do this more. And then as we got older and we were hungover less times, it was just, do you want to go to the cinema? We'd skip the first stage and just be sensible people at the cinema.
All right. Well, it's you and Stuart going to the cinema. Now, Joanna, there's a clock on the wall in the foyer. It reads a specific time. What time of day have we gone to the cinema?
So it's 8 p.m. on a Friday night.
Wow. 8 p.m. on a Friday night. Not just the time, but the day as well.
Yeah. I want the cinema to have that atmosphere. I want other people there. I feel like if I wanted total silence or like no distractions, I would just watch a film in my house and I wouldn't bother going to the cinema. But I think you go to the cinema to kind of experience these things collectively. And I kind of love watching other people react to stuff. So like before the movie starts, Stuart and I will sit there and we'll be like, do you think they're actually a couple, or do you think they're friends, or like, do you think that they're having an affair? Is this their first date? We'll like look around us and like totally make up backstories for people that we don't even know. And we couldn't do that in our own house. So I want the cinema to kind of be like buzzing. I want that anticipation. I want people like coming in last minute or sneaking out to get more popcorn because they're just having a great time. And like, yeah, I want people to feel like it's the beginning of the weekend, so everyone's in a good mood. It's like late enough that they had dinner, so there's not too much snacking going on. And yeah, 8 p.m. Friday night.
Do you find that if other people are laughing, because as they say, laughter is infectious. So do you laugh more when other people are laughing? Do you cry more when other people are crying? Does the emotion of a crowd instill you with a similar feeling?
I think it does. Like my fiance definitely calls me an empath, and like if he's annoyed about something, I'll get annoyed even if I don't know what it is. And I think the same is true for like going to the cinema, and especially laughter. Like if other people, or do you know what I find even funnier is when people laugh at stuff that I'm like that wasn't supposed to be funny. And then I sit there and I'm like, why are you laughing? Like what did you hear that I didn't hear? And so I kind of enjoy other people more than the film sometimes. Like if the film is rubbish, the people around me can be a good distraction.
And I guess it's good for your writing as well, because, you know, you have your own idea of what's funny, but sometimes if something is happening you don't find funny, but a lot of people are finding funny, like, wow, it's a really good understanding of, you know, human nature, human life, human existence, what people like that you might not.
Yeah, for sure. Like I know, like someone, so like my fiance wouldn't find like puerile jokes that funny. Like, and they do like bodily fluids or going to the bathroom. He would just be like, Whereas like me and Stuart would be sitting there, be like, we would just find it so funny. And so like stuff like that, where like other people will be laughing and like, I love letting that affect you. And yeah, as you say, for your writing as well, it's like, I had a reading of my play and hearing it out loud and hearing when people were laughing and when they weren't. That was more concerning. I was like, hang on a minute. That line's funny. Do you want to read it again? Do you want to go back?
Can you tell me what the play's about? Are you talking about it yet, or is it still under wraps as you're still writing it?
I can probably tell you. Yeah, I mean, I could probably tell. So it's an adaptation of a Chekhov novel called The Shooting Party. And it was his first kind of attempt at long form. And thankfully, Chekhov realized that he was a playwright and not a novelist. So I came across this novel and I thought he's writing for the stage, but this is the wrong format. And so I wanted it to exist in a theatrical space. So I've taken it and I have enhanced some of the characters and I've removed some of the other characters, and I've taken a little bit of creative license to make it feel relevant to our time. Like I've changed the decade that it happens in, so that the politics of Russia at the time marry the politics of the times that we live in now. And I've kind of made the female character the central character, and it feels like it's this kind of sexy, vibrant thrilling study of what it means to exist as a human. And I'm really excited to kind of get it up in front of audiences. So watch this space.
So you haven't done it yet. You've had a read through, but you haven't actually performed it in full in front of an audience.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have a director attached, and we're going to start taking it to producing theaters and producers and get a space for it, and then hopefully get it into their program. So it's such a learning curve being on the other side of things. But I love it. I love kind of getting to see how these things come to fruition. So also there's that saying that it's never finished. You've only run out of time. So I'm just constantly rewriting, which is a new experience for me as well, because I'm used to just being handed the script and going, okay, this is what I do.
But has it given you an even greater appreciation of what the work that writers do on a script when you're like, oh my God, I just thought maybe they just knocked this up, and actually no, it's
absolutely.
A hair pulling.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I often had that feeling of like, wow, you've created this. But now I have an even deeper sense of like, especially finishing something. Like a lot of people have an idea and they're like, oh, I'd love to write something, or I have a story. And then they either don't write it, or they start and then they stop, and then they never exist. And so it's that pushing through to the final draft, or the most recent draft, and then giving that to the world is very brave, I think. I think that was one of the steps that I realized along the way, is like, okay, this has been me in my study for, full disclosure, 3 years. And now people are reading it and they're looking at it, and like, there's so much of me on the page. There's so much of my opinion and my thoughts and my feelings and my experiences in life, that if someone was to say they didn't like it, there was a bit of me that was like, what would I do? What would I do if they didn't like it? But actually, as an actor, you're very used to getting notes. And I'm lucky enough that I surrounded myself with people who give constructive criticism. So the notes that I have are very actionable, and they were those compliment sandwich. So it's like, it was great. Have you thought about doing this? But really, it was wonderful. So we had a couple of those.
Exciting times. All right, we're still in the foyer at the moment, however. So you have booked the tickets for the cinema trip. Where in the auditorium are we going to be sitting?
So it depends if I've booked them or if Stuart has booked them, because I would choose, this is probably a bit of a stereotype, I would choose right in the back row, right in the middle of the screen, because I want to see the full effect. And that's kind of, again, my living room is set up in a really weird way. So like the TV's on a slant, and if you're sitting, so like TV's here, and if you're sitting here, you can't see anything. It's really annoying. I don't know why we've done that, for the aesthetic. But when I go to the cinema, I want to be able to see everything. But okay, if I go with Stuart, he will often forget his glasses, and so then we'll have to actually sit much closer to the front than I would normally have picked. But that's what friends do. You don't want him to not be able to see.
You're a better friend than me. I've had that experience when I've been to the cinema with people and they're, oh my God, I forgot my glasses. We have to sit at the front. No, absolutely. It's no, just no. We'll come
Do you
again.
sit separately? Do you move? You're like, I'll wave to you. But then they can't see you, so they don't know you're waving.
Yeah. It's wow. So you would forego your perfect seat in the auditorium.
I would, especially because I also wear glasses. We have a similar prescription, and so sometimes we just take it in turns. So I'll be like, you can wear them for the next bit, or we'll both sit at the front and I'll take mine off.
It's love. That's very, very, very generous of you. More generous than me. And I think a lot of people, the cinema is such a holy experience. Having to not sit in the perfect seat, that would break me. But good on you. Also, however, Stuart has remembered his glasses. This is the perfect cinema trip.
Okay, perfect cinema trip. So we're right at the back. He's got his glasses. Oh, this is the perfect cinema trip. He's arrived on time and he's got his glasses. Dreams do come true.
Right, the final thing we need before we leave the foyer. The air is full of wonderful smells. All manner of snacks and foodstuffs are available from the various counters. What are you choosing to eat?
Now, this is rogue, but I'm going to have a vegan cheeseburger with fries.
Wow. Okay, a vegan cheeseburger with fries. So,
yes.
I am assuming, based on that decision, you, Joanna, are a vegan.
I am. And I feel like there's never really a time in life when the answer isn't have a vegan cheeseburger. Because, like, it would just make you feel better. Like, you know, I've got to go to the dentist. Well, just have a vegan cheeseburger after. Right? Got to sit my driving test. Reward yourself with a vegan cheeseburger. I mean, literally, I cannot think of a time when it wouldn't be the answer.
I was a vegan for a while, and then I moved back to vegetarian because cheese. And so I do eat vegan cheeseburgers, and I can confirm they are a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And they've come on leaps and bounds. It's not like the bean patty of the early 2000s. Like this, like there have been times when I'm like, have they made a mistake? Like this one tastes really meaty. So I feel like we're not missing out on the cow bit, and we just get all the like delicious, greasy, good bit.
So what was the decision? Was it a health thing, an ethical thing, animal welfare, environmental, a bit of everything?
Yeah, so like the first thing that made me think about it was the environmental impact. I kind of became aware of like how much land and the emissions that come from industrial farming. And I sort of thought, I don't want to contribute to that. And then at the same time, like simultaneously, I saw this Anthony Bourdain episode where he'd gone to Scotland, and I was like, oh, this is, you know, I'm in Scotland. And they went up a mountain and they shot a deer, and then they brought it back down. And I just thought that deer was just chilling. It's so majestic and it's so strong and powerful, and it's just living its life. And now it's dead. And I just thought, I'm not going to eat anything that I wouldn't kill. And that list is really, really short. And so now I eat vegetables.
Yeah, it's I fundamentally agree with you. So yeah, I think it's a great decision having a vegan cheeseburger with fries. I'm guessing that means you're not going for pick and mix either, because a lot of them have gelatin in, don't they?
Yeah, weirdly they're made with pigs, isn't that kind of confusing? Yeah, no, I wouldn't do a pick and mix. But I would have like a sweet soda. I'd have like a ginger beer, or more often than not, I'd actually have a gin and tonic. So that kind of like does the sweet thing for me.
And popcorn, sweet or salted?
So again, this is why Stuart is like the best cinema friend, because we both like a mixture. And so I'll get sweet and he'll get salted, and then we will mix them together. Or we'll just eat like a handful from each other's little container. And it's delightful. I love a little like mixed handful.
I get that. It feels counterintuitive, however. It feels not particularly efficient when you can actually buy mixed popcorn and both have your own mixed popcorn. But
when they get to decide the ratio, the person who's filling your box will be like, I'm going to put in this much of this. And also, then all the salted is on the bottom, or all the sweet is on the bottom, and you have to like stick your hand in and rake around. And you don't want to do that when you're sharing. So this way you can just be like, I'm going to take a handful of this and a handful of that. And then you can be gross in your own space and like melt them in your mouth, like mix them in your mouth.
Okay, so it's mixed. I like this. I like the control you're taking here. You're writing scripts. You're putting on a play. You're deciding exactly what ratio of popcorn you want in your mouth between sweet and salt. There's a lot of control issues here.
Listen, like the world is going to pot. You've got to take this when you can. Absolutely. I have no regrets.
All right, brilliant. We've got everything we need now to leave the foyer. We're going to walk down the corridor towards the auditorium. Posters along the cinema wall illustrate some of your most important movie memories. The first poster I'm going to put up depicts your fondest movie memory.
So this one's kind of embarrassing, but I'm just going to admit it. My fondest movie memory is actually the first time I was allowed to go to the cinema by myself with my friends. So like everyone in my class in high school was invited. And so there were like loads of us. I mean, I went to high school in Dundee in Scotland, so it's probably not that many people compared to other schools, but there were like 30 of us maybe. So you can imagine the chaos that was going on. And like I had my little like £5, and so I could buy my sweets and check what everyone else is buying and make sure that you could like, you know, that you looked cool to sit in the dark. And then I think if I'm right, I think the film was Austin Powers. And we just all sat. Oh no! I've made a mistake. It was what is that? What is that puppet movie?
A puppet movie. Whew, I mean, that's broad.
It's called like, and they like, it's like a sarcastic puppet movie, and they go and like solve crimes.
Wow. So if you were in high school, a sarcastic puppet movie, God, I really wish I knew this. It feels like one of those. I mean, trivia about films is like my thing.
And they're like, America.
Oh,
yeah.
Team America World Police.
Team America. That was it. Yeah, that was it.
Wow. I
know.
That's a hell of a movie.
Yeah. So I would have been 13 when that came out. And that was the first time I was like really allowed to like go and be with my friends, and like there was loads of us. And and we all just found it absolutely hilarious. And then for the next year, probably, we were just walking around singing songs from it and doing quotes. And like I love the fact that you can kind of have that immediate reference to something. That's how kind of movies can like create a sense of community. Like you can just make a gesture or say one thing, and it brings you together because you're like, oh yeah, we had that shared experience.
Yeah.
So that's like quite embarrassing, but that is my fondest cinematic experience.
I don't think that's embarrassing at all. Although I don't imagine. Have you watched it since with your partner? Because I don't imagine they would appreciate one of the greatest vomit scenes in cinema history.
I think he does actually really love that movie, but I haven't asked him. What I might do tonight is be like, babe, I have to watch this film for work. Will you? Do you want to watch it with me? And he always says yes because he's incredibly sportive, and he'll be like, are you joking? Is this what we're watching? And I'll be like, America, fuck yeah. And it'll be great.
Oh, lovely stuff. Yeah. I just hearing that song again, it makes me want to watch it. I haven't watched it for ages, and I remember having my mind blown because it is so like, oh, how have you done this? But it's Matt Stone and Trey Parker and that whole, you know, I mean, you got to.
Yeah, the creative team behind it is just like they're comic geniuses, aren't they? And I think that was also in a time when they kind of had a bit more freedom. So it was, I mean, it's incredibly controversial. I feel like it would just be banned now.
Yeah, I'm sure Matt Damon would have banned it because that's followed him around ever since.
Yeah. Who was it that felt like their career was ruined by do you know who I'm about to say? The guy who's like, and he's like tried to make a comeback.
Ooh.
And it was like all they did was like just say his name. Oh no, maybe he was like, was it? You can cut this bit. It's really boring. Sorry, never mind.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I think potentially if anyone's career if they've been mentioned on South Park and they bother to sort of reference it, they're shooting themselves in the foot because everyone takes it as read that South Park, Team America, anything that Stone and Parker do, it's like you just like go, I'm not touching that because that's what they do. That is their raison d'etre.
Yeah, if anything, it's like I've made it. Like I'm now enough of a kind of like pop culture figure that they've decided to include me in their storyline. So just take it as a compliment and laugh.
It's what they tell themselves as they're crying themselves to sleep at night. It's on their silk pillowcases. I must be It must be huge for them to have taken the piss out of me. All right, Team American World Police is our first poster that's going up. Our second poster, as we continue down the corridor, depicts your worst movie memory.
So this is really stayed with me. When I was 10, I tried to get into a 12A movie, and I'd been practicing my year of birth all morning, but because I'm an October baby, I'd actually got it wrong, I kept getting confused. And so when it was time and the usher asked how old I was, I said the wrong year, and I was with two girlfriends at the same age, and my brother was also going to this other movie, and he got in because he was older, and so we didn't get to go in because I ruined it for them as well, because I'd said, and they were so they were very understanding, but you could tell, and they were just we'd all put on makeup and straightened our hair, and I was wearing double denim, and I really thought that I looked 12, and I obviously didn't, and then I ruined it, and so we didn't get to see the Spider-Man movie. So that's
I was going to ask, it was the first Spider-Man movie that you didn't get to see. So, you rehearsed the wrong dates, or you panicked in the moment? I want to say it's the latter.
I think I panicked in the moment, yeah, because I'm quite good at math, so I think I would have actually known the right year to say. And then when it came down to it, I was and instead of just changing the year and sticking with the most amount of truth, because then it would have been two truths and a lie. Actually, I think I just went for lie, and I really messed it up. And I can remember that feeling of just the embarrassment rising, and just being pink in the face, and sweating, and my super straight hair was just sticking to my face, and I was wiping my sweaty upper lip, oh, it was just awful. So I really it stayed with me.
I mean, the reaction sounds like you're trying to rob a bank, not get into a 12 at 10 years old. But yeah, I understand how stressful
I'm a very nice person. It's the worst thing I've ever done.
All right, Spider-Man, the poster for that 12A movie Spider-Man is going up. We're continuing down the corridor. Our third poster depicts the last performance that brought you, Joanna, to tears.
So this was a tricky one, because I try not to cry. And I think, as I was thinking about it, I was why is that? And then I was this podcast is probably not the time to get into that. But
you can get into it. This is a safe space.
Is this the therapy time for Joe? Yeah, I don't know. So I try not to. And I think I sit there and I intentionally, I'm and I try and get the frog out of my throat. I refuse it. And in the way that when some people watch a scary movie, they have this voice in their head that's it's just a movie. It's not real. It's just a movie, to try and make them not so scared. I do that with sad stuff. And I have this kind of voice in my head that's well, no, they're just actors. They're just actors. And I really try not to. But one film got me recently enough, and that was Tick, Tick, Boom with Andrew Garfield. It was just so powerful to watch this person who was so full of life have it cut short. And because the AIDS epidemic have affected so many people, I think there was a sense of it being bigger than just that story. And so that did get me. That got me in the end.
It's an incredible film, isn't it? He's such a versatile actor as well, Andrew Garfield. You're watching him be the best thing in the recent Spider-Man No Way Home movie. Then you see him in something like Tick, Tick, Boom, and it's chameleon-like.
Absolutely. I was lucky enough to get to see him in Angels in America on stage, and I went for the double show. So it was 8 hours of theater in one day. And he was just breathtaking. I mean, he was just so easy to watch and such a natural storyteller. And I think he's got a real his versatility is not placed on him. It's sort of accessed from somewhere deeper within. It's not like he's trying to be a character. It's like he embodies that character. I really, really admire him as an actor, and seeing him sort of do like a singing, dancing, even though this had a really Tick Tick Boom had such a powerful message behind it, it still was like had musical elements, and seeing him kind of attack those with so much freedom and lack of not he's not thinking about what he looks like, was a real kind of lesson for me as an actor. And again, I think that's why I was so moved, is because the performance was so convincing.
And the trying not to cry thing, weirdly, I can relate. I'm exactly the same. If I'm on my own, I'm more than happy to cry. So for me, it's a social anxiety thing, or I used to think it was because I got into trouble once from an ex-partner who said that you never cry in real life, you only ever cry at films. And I don't think she liked the fact that I didn't emote as a human until someone put a movie in front of me. But even now, from a young age, like, I couldn't cry in front of my parents. I was embarrassed. I ran away from it. It's a real thing to be scared of crying in front of people.
That is interesting. And I think perhaps there's also sort of, the way that boys are told to, man up and, don't cry like a girl and all that stuff. I don't know if that applies to you, so forgive me for implying that. But I think it's, there is a sort of a social expectation to be able to deal with stuff. It's so interesting that your girlfriend was like, you don't cry in real. I think that's absolutely fascinating. I think, like, I'm trying to think back if I cry when I'm by myself like watching something at home, and I still don't think I do. I still think I do that thing of like, no, don't cry at this. But I actually find it quite hard to cry when I'm on screen and on stage. I feel like maybe they just it doesn't come that easily for me. It takes quite a lot.
It's
interesting to get me to cry.
And yeah, and because there's two famous crying stories about actors at either end of the spectrum. Steve McQueen famously didn't take a role in Close Encounters of the Third Kind because the role required him to cry, and he said to Spielberg at the meeting, "I just can't cry on camera, so I can't do your movie." And then there's the famous one about Daniel Kaluuya, who could cry that single tear down his cheek on command in Get Out.
Yeah, fuck him. I mean, I think that is incredibly impressive. I've worked with actors. Juliet Stevenson actually said to me that she cries when she's angry, and she finds it really annoying. So she's trying to play a scene. The scene that we were doing was that basically someone has come to tell her that her son has been murdered, and she wanted to portray that she was angry at the police officer, that she was furious at them for not saving her son, and she was crying, and she was getting so annoyed because she's like, this isn't what I want to be happening. And so I do think there is this like extreme. I was there like just push, poking myself in the eye, and she was just like, oh, these stupid tears won't leave me alone. So like, I don't know if you can ever really. I think Daniel Kaluuya has it spot on. If you can just like delicate little, I mean, that scene in of itself, that's like, surely someone said that that's their like favorite shot of all time, because like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's also, I mean, if I was going to cry, I'd want to cry like that, just a single almost sexy tear down one cheek, not covered in snot.
Yeah. Maybe you could practice that for your next girlfriend.
yeah. Just whenever it's real life, though, not a movie. Real life. Yeah. Okay. Our final poster we've got to put up before we enter the auditorium depicts your unpopular movie opinion. What is it?
My unpopular opinion. So I had thought about this one, but I think I'd got the gist wrong. So let me have a think.
What was the gist you went with? I can maybe find a way of making it fit.
So I thought it just meant like about the experience of going to the movies. And
Okay.
so I was going to say that they're too loud. And like, I just want them to turn it down a little bit. Like, I know that the sound system is good.
This is an unpopular opinion. This fits the bill. What just talk me through what you're talking about.
Well, when I just feel like the noise, like the sound effects and the soundtrack, the music, it like kind of hurts my ears when it's that loud. And it's like, we know that you have a very expensive sound system. We appreciate it, but just turn it down a little bit, please. So
this isn't the sound mix in the film. We're not talking about the sound mix in the film. We're not saying that the dialogue is too quiet. I couldn't hear that.
Cinemas in general can turn it down a bit.
So this is cinemas in general are playing their movies too loud.
Yeah.
That
was my unpopular opinion, but I can think of a film that would be unpopular as well.
Yeah, if you've got one, I'd love to hear it. I mean, that unpopular opinion is genuinely intriguing. You go to the cinema for this immersive experience. It's overpowering in the best possible way. You are totally lost in this. It's too loud, though. Can we just knock it down a couple of? Has anyone got the remote? Because
maybe I just have really good hearing. Maybe. I don't know. That is probably what it is. Okay, my unpopular opinion. I'm trying to think of like really popular movies that I didn't like. Oh, this is probably going to be unpopular, and I'm going to maybe get some flack for this. I don't think that the most recent, not the most recent, but like, you know how there are 6 Star Wars movies before the like new Star Wars movies?
I do.
So there was like the 3 original, and then there was the prequels, which were made later.
Yep.
And everyone says that those 3 are really bad. I actually prefer them.
You prefer the
originals?
Okay, yeah, that is an unpopular opinion for a certain generation. Let's say. I think. I mean, roughly how old were you when you saw the prequels?
So I actually auditioned for the most recent ones, and I hadn't seen them until then, and so I watched them in story order that was the first time I'd ever seen them.
All of them. All of them.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Star Wars was like a big thing in my house, like in my family. It was never really. I wasn't exposed to it.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But you watched The Phantom Menace, then Attack of the Clones, then Revenge of the Sith, and then you moved on to A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
Okay. And as an adult, you still thought those first 3 movies were better than the originals.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I just thought, why is everyone why does everyone feel like those other... Maybe I just support the underdog. I don't know. But I was watching them and being like, these are really... Like, I am in the story. I feel immersed. Some of the costumes were maybe a bit ropey in the 1970s ones. Maybe it was that. Who knows?
Okay. That is an unpopular opinion. How did the audition go? I mean, I'm evidently
not in it, so I think that... No, to be honest, it was actually one of those really embarrassing auditions. I don't know if you've ever seen Fiery Hawk on YouTube. It's like an extreme example of how you feel when you're going into an audition. And basically, so they were like, it's so embarrassing. They like give you props, but like they also have like a box of props, so you can like pick something. And like I picked like a book or something really stupid. Like, why did I pick a book? And it was like a big hardback children's book that I was just like wielding around. And then I realized that I hadn't picked from the prop box. I'd picked from the casting director's her child's box. There was next to it.
Oh my God.
I thought it could be a shield. I don't know.
Oh, this is awful.
But, you know, Daisy Ridley is excellent, so I think everyone's benefited from that situation.
How long into holding this book as a prop did you realise it might not be from the...
When I put it back at the end of the audition.
So
I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Why did no one else in this room? It's like when Benedict Cumberbatch says penguin instead of penguin. It's like there were other people in the room that could have told him to say penguin. And you could have told me that I had picked from the wrong box. Why was that box there? That's not my fault.
God. Wow. I feel your embarrassment in that situation. So as you put it back...
I actually am like blushing thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah, as I put it back, I was like, oh, there's
a lightsaber.
There's like a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. But I mean, you've got to think about it like this. If you'd picked from the right box, you'd be Rey in the new movies right now. I mean, like, you know, it was only that book that stopped you being in that movie.
That doesn't make me feel good at all. That makes me feel even more stupid.
As I was saying it, I realized that in my head that was a really good thing because it was nothing to do with the audition. It was the fact that you picked up the book. But when I said it, I realized that it was like, oh yeah, it still doesn't change anything.
Still my fault. Yeah, this close. No, but if anyone is listening from the Star Wars franchise, I'm a big fan of all the movies and I'm available.
Brilliant. We're putting up then a poster for... Let's stick up the worst of the prequels, Attack the Clones, as your favourite movie from those prequels, because why not? Right, we've reached the last set of doors. Oh, a doggy!
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Judy. It's Dame Judi Dench. We're having a delivery.
My dog's exactly the same. I've got a whippet called Simon. Dame Judi Dench.
Yes, the American Cocker Spaniel. Would you like to see her?
I would love to see Dame Judi Dench. Oh, wow. She is cute. How old is she?
She's barking. She's 10 now.
Oh, she looks lovely.
Yeah, you barking?
Good.
Barking?
Protecting.
All right, that's Judy.
Okay, so we're into the auditorium. So I will say there's a queue of people hoping to join yourself and Stuart in the auditorium. Now, you like a big crowd. I'm assuming you're letting them in?
Oh, yeah. They're all, pretty much full. That's what I want.
Amazing. The crowd go wild. They're pouring into the auditorium. Now, before we get to the movie, there's a few things I'm going to play on the screen. And the first thing I'm going to play is a trailer for the movie you're most looking forward to. What trailer are we playing?
So the movie that I'm most looking forward to coming out, this is a toss-up. So, this is tough because I actually want two. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the next Dune movie. Mm-hmm. I loved the first one. I actually loved the original as well.
The David Lynch one from the 80s.
Yeah. I just thought, like, it's such an incredible world. And, like, apparently the book is really dense. So I think, like, hats off to creating this film where everyone can get so immersed and, like, all the storylines and all the worlds are really clear and engaging and kind of, like, by the end of the first film, even though it was quite long, I was like, oh, no, what happens to them? So I'm excited for the next one.
So this is great because I was someone else picked Dune 2 not so long ago, but they hadn't seen the original. You have, which is it's a great time to talk about this because my only problem, because I think, Denis Villeneuve, the way it's shot, the way it looks, the performances, the new one is great, apart from one thing, and I'd love your take on it. I think in the book and certainly in the original film, Baron Harkonnen is the Baron Harkonnen you want him to be, an absolute deviant, disgusting monster of a man. He's repulsive in every way. I don't think Stellan Skarsgård's Baron Harkonnen is as grim and repulsive as he should be. I didn't think he
that's
worked.
Interesting. Yeah, they relied quite a lot on the prosthesis, didn't they? there was just like gunge, and he was just like really weirdly shaped. And I wonder if like all of the kind of, because I think the prosthesis came like right down his face and like onto his cheeks and stuff. And I wonder if that stopped him from conveying that sense of like pure evil in a way.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying.
Okay, good. Thank you for hearing what I'm saying. Right, Dune 2 is one of them. What's the other?
The other one is Legally Blonde 3. And I think this really like shows the wide expanse of my passion for film, because like how different can you get, really? But there have been so many delays. Like they've been promising that they're going to release it, and then they said that they were going to release it this year, and then now there's like maybe it's been like indefinitely cancelled, and I'm like, but it's got Jennifer Coolidge in it. What could go wrong? Just give it to us. We will like it.
Love
That's how I feel.
Jennifer Coolidge. Oh, God walks among us. She is fantastic. Right? Yeah.
And she's like having this resurgence, and I'm just like so happy for her.
Yeah. And that first movie, I wasn't a huge fan of, was it Red, White and Blonde, the second one? But that first movie, I'd forgotten. I watched it not so long ago. It goes from this one thing, and then you've got this kick-ass courtroom drama at the end. And I was like, I love a movie that ends with a courtroom drama.
Why did you rewatch it? What were you doing? No judgment, just really curious.
I'm a fan of rewatching old movies that I like. No, I have another podcast, and I was required to watch it for that. I wouldn't. Okay. I wouldn't have revisited it if it wasn't for work. But I very much enjoyed revisiting it.
Good. Maybe I should. Again, I'll be like, Ben, I have to watch this for work. Yep. He'll be like, what are you doing to me? But he'll enjoy it.
Team America, World Police, and Legally Blonde. He has a hell of a night ahead of him. Right then, next thing we're going to play is your favorite shot or sequence from a movie.
So my favorite shot is the one in Black Swan, where it's like the sequence where, I mean, throughout the movie they play with bending reality. And I think the CGI was like really remarkable, especially for the budget of the film and the time that it was shot. And it's that scene where she's at home, she's not in the music studio, and she's starts to feel herself changing into the swan, and her eyes start to get like kind of like weirdly like bird shaped. And she has this like all of this is why it's like it has to be a shot, because it's like you can't describe it in any other way, you can't describe it with words, but like the feathers that start to kind of push their way out of her skin, and the sound effects and the kind of ripples that like the kind of little dots all over her skin, it makes your skin crawl watching it. And the way that she then kind of picks a feather out of her back, and she does it really slowly in the sound effect, and you feel it in your own skin. And I just think that is incredible cinematography, storytelling, performance, all marrying into one moment, and visual effects as well, because it's evocative, and it makes it so visceral. Like, you know, the feeling of like picking a feather out of a pillow, but imagine doing that out of your own skin. And it stayed with me. Yeah. I was like 18 or 19 when that came out, and I was in drama school. And so I could really relate to that sense of wanting to be the best and creating this competitive environment, and watching this girl kind of just lose herself to it. Really resonated with me. So that's my favorite shot.
It's I had my own skin crawling moment as you described that. It's the body horror in Black Swan. It's weirdly a very simple moment that gets me, and it's where she's picking at her fingers in the bathroom, and then she pulls the bit of skin, and the skin strips all the way down the top of her finger from the nail.
Yeah.
Every time it gets me.
It's I mean, even again, you describing that now, I'm like, oh, makes you feel kind of sick thinking about it. So I think like it's just so cool as well, the exploration of the inside of someone's mind. And that film has the power to do that, to put it on screen and for other people to say, oh, I understand that experience.
And was drama school like that? I've always wondered whether there's a sense of camaraderie among people studying drama alongside each other, or whether you are looking around going, well, we're going to be in competition with each other in a few years.
Well, I think it's interesting because it sort of had peaks and troughs. Sometimes you really felt like you were all in it together, and there was a real sort of sense of like wanting each other to be good and to do well. It wasn't necessarily that like you felt like you'd be in competition directly with them, because luckily we weren't really any of us in the same casting bracket. We all looked quite different and had different sort of energies and vibes and approaches to things. And so I think I didn't feel like, oh, I'm going to directly, it wasn't like the Nina and Lily characters in Black Swan in any sense, but there was a sense of competing with myself, of like, I would put pressures on myself that I had to be the best, that I had to, you know, get the best scenes. I had to have the best feedback from outside tutors coming in. I had to have the highest score on exams. And that was all kind of in my own head, because I wanted it so desperately. I wanted to work, and I wanted to be, when I was auditioning for a drama school, they said there was this auditorium full of people, and we were all there to audition, and the head of the acting school came up and he said other stuff, but he also said 2% of of everyone auditioning this year will get into a drama school, and 2% of that 2% will work professionally as actors. And someone in front of me got up and walked out. And in my head, I thought, that will be me. I will work. And that drive, that confidence of a 17-year-old, I wish I could go back in time and just drink that back up, because she was more confident than I am. But I do think that I had that in the back of my head of, be that 2%. I will be that 2%. And so it was more that kind of competition with myself rather than with anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you say you even though to talk to that 17-year-old now and go, you did it. You actually work professionally. You're 2% of the 2%. You feel less confident now than the person who actually got you to this point did have at that moment?
I think so. I think sort of ignorance is bliss, isn't it? You sort of realize that, you know, when you're that age, you just think, yeah, why would I not work? Why would I not be the one? And now I sort of feel a little bit more like the competition's harder. The players I'm playing against are so good. They're so incredibly talented that it's, I do sometimes find that I'm sort of thinking, oh, can I do this? Can I play this part? You know, it's a little bit like saying I can't take the role because I can't cry. It's like, I probably wouldn't say that, because I think on the day I could get there, but I feel like, yeah, I think if I could go back and be as confident as I was then, maybe I should be. Maybe I should just tell myself I am.
Yeah. It's like, well, it's a bit of a confidence trick these days, isn't it? It's like, you know, the imposter syndrome that you mentioned earlier. It's like burying that and going, actually, everyone believes I should be here, and I do too. So shut up. Yeah.
Thanks.
All right, then. A couple more things before we get to the movie you're playing tonight. Next up, you very kindly printed out T-shirts for our audience and Stuart with your favorite movie quote on the front. What is that movie quote?
The movie quote is, "You've always been crazy. This is just the first chance you've had to express yourself." And it's from Thelma and Louise.
That's great. I have seen Thelma and Louise once, very long time ago. And what are the circumstances that this? Who says it? Is that Susan Sarandon to Gina Davis, or vice versa?
Yeah, no, it's Susan Sarandon, and they've basically they've run away and they're sort of driving the car and they get to the motel room and it's the first night in this motel room, and what basically she's thinking, should I go back? What have I done? I can't do this. I can't run away. We're crazy. I must be crazy to be here. And she says, you've always been crazy. And I just think that that's wonderful. It's permission. It's you'll have the best adventures of your life if you're not censoring who you are. I think that's the sentiment. And I just think that is lovely, especially because, with social media nowadays, and you sort of feel like you have to convince everybody that you have a sort of lifestyle or an appearance, or that you have the coolest clothes. And God, it must be so difficult for people in high school and younger, kind of thinking, like directly comparing themselves, because that's what teenagers are supposed to do. They're designed to do that. And I just think I can't wait for everyone to realize that they can be a bit crazy, and that is when they'll have more fun. That's when I have the most fun in rehearsals. It's when I have the most fun, outside of work, but especially in rehearsals. It's when you push yourself past the point of what would I do or what would I not do, into that realm of what on earth could I do? I just think that there's so much fun there. There's so much fun to be had.
So remind me of the quote. You've always been crazy. That this is
just the first chance you've had to express yourself.
This is just the first chance you've had to express yourself. Lovely. That's going on a T-shirt. Everyone's thrilled with their T-shirts. Thank you again, Joanna. Right. Final thing before we get to your movie. What are we playing through the sound system at an acceptable volume? Not too loud. It's your favorite song or soundtrack from a film.
So again, I kind of have this was a tough one to choose because they're both songs that have kind of stayed with me as I first sort of started watching films. So the first one I would probably pick would be Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve, because that is the end. That's the kind of climax of Cruel Intentions. And so Reese Witherspoon's character has finally bested Sarah Michelle Gellar's character. And she's driving off in the car that Sarah Michelle Gellar wanted. And that started the whole thing, the whole competition, when the whole school finds out about her addiction to cocaine and all the other little things that she's figured out. And I just remember it so clearly. She's got this little crucifix that she kind of unscrews, and she's taking a sniff of cocaine when she hears over the sound system what's going on. And she looks up in the mirror and she's just got this line of cocaine on her nose, and she's just I'm fucked. And Bittersweet Symphony is playing, and it's just so perfect. And I feel that was one of those movies that I probably watched too early, too young, and I have my older sister to thank for that. But I turned out okay, no issues here. So that would definitely be one. And then the other one is such a rogue choice.
Go on.
So it's from a film called Toothless, which I don't know if you remember. It's about a dental assistant who gets hit by a car or a bike or something, and she becomes the tooth fairy, but she's actually in a coma. And so it's this ridiculous movie where she's no, I'm not the tooth fairy. What's going on? But you kind of fall in love with her, and you spend the whole movie kind of wishing that she could accept her circumstances and that she would be this good tooth fairy. Because I was probably 5 or 6 when I watched this. And then right at the end, she actually dies and she goes away.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I thought this was a kid's movie.
I think it is a kid's movie, but she was hit by a car. So it's also this was the 90s.
Yeah, they were different. Yeah.
Things were different. So she doesn't make it. Oh no. Maybe I've made a mistake. Maybe she regains consciousness, and so she stops being tooth fairy because she's not in a coma anymore.
This is a roller coaster right now. She maybe doesn't die. Wow.
People can Google it. I'm so sorry. But basically, at the end, when she like is leaving, I think she is dying. Bonnie Tyler is singing "It's a Heartbreak," and like her voice is just like iconic. It's something else. It's just so moving. And I do actually, I would cry at that. So I was like 6 or 7, and I would just be like, "It's a heartache, nothing but a heart," like just singing along, cry, feeling my feels. And I think like as a kid, it was probably the first time in my life I'd sort of realized that like someone you love could leave you, because like I was very lucky I didn't have anyone kind of like grandmas die at that age. So it was like a big life lesson. And I think, again, it's like really remarkable that films can kind of give you that and be there and do that for society. So I just thought that that was a fun one to include. Sorry, I didn't know the plot that well.
That's all right. I'm certainly going to look up Toothless immediately after this, because it's one that passed me by entirely, and I'm interested to know whether or not she dies, because I just need that closure now. I'm not sure why. Right. The moment has arrived, Joanna. It's time to announce to our excited audience and an excited Stuart in this packed auditorium the movie out of all others you have decided to screen for us tonight. What film are we watching?
We're watching Birdman.
Ah.
This was so difficult. This was like honestly one of the hardest questions that I have ever like had, because I love so many different types of films. But I feel like if you go to the cinema, you are going for a cinematic experience. So I didn't want to pick something like, one of my favorite films is Girl Interrupted, but you don't necessarily have to be in the cinema to see that movie. And so I thought, what film have I seen where I've been like, I am so glad I saw that on the big screen with the too loud music, and it was an experience, and it was Birdman. And I just think like, I love the fact that it's such a comment on like the way the film industry is going, and also like what it means to get older, and why humans are kind of like, we're obsessed with this idea of fame and our lives having meaning, and what that meaning is. And even back in 2014 when it came out, it was like talking about like, you don't mean anything unless you've gone viral on Twitter. And like, I just think it was kind of ahead of its time in terms of its social commentary, but also it's such a cinematic movie, like the way that it was shot, like you feel like you are in the backstage of the theater with them. And also then when he's like flying, you're like, oh, I'm flying too. So yeah.
Yes, this is what have we here? Alejandro Inarritu. I hope I'm pronouncing right. One of they're clearly putting something in the water in Mexico. You've got him, Alfonso Cuarón, and Benicio Guillermo del Toro. Sorry, these three directors are all like won big at the Oscars. But this one, am I right in thinking it's been a while since I saw it? It's all shot like it's one continuous take. Was that one of the parts of Birdman, or am I making that up?
I think they tried to make it look like that. That's a good point.
But I do
think it feels like that. There were occasions when I was like, "Oh God, that was one scene that all played."
So, but it does.
I think you're right. I think it does do that.
The bit that I remember, there's a really funny line at the start where Michael Keaton is talking about the like, it's a sort of thinly disguised a comment on superhero cinema. And he's talking about Jeremy Renner and what a fantastic actor is. And someone's like, he's in the new Avengers movie. And they're like, he's like, they got Renner. And you're like, wow, this is great.
Yeah, it's so good. I just think that in that sense as well, it's so clever because, we still like the movies, going to the cinema, like it's been taken over by these kind of blockbusters, and unless it's like a really independent small cinema which are just like closing left, right, and center, I feel like there is this sort of, oh well, I wouldn't go and see that. It needs to be the type of movie that I would go and see in the cinema, because otherwise people do just kind of want to watch it in their houses. And I feel like that, like Birdman, using that ironically got people to the cinema. And I just thought that was really clever.
Brilliant. What a brilliant choice. Birdman. I can't remember its subtitle. It's got a great subtitle. Birdman.
Oh, yeah. The ignorance of something.
Yeah. Either way. You're doing my job for me. I should be doing that. Sorry. I'm literally sitting here going, what? Like trying to remember rather than going on the internet. I'm like...
The unexpected virtue of ignorance.
Yay! All right, brilliant. That is the movie we're screening. And that is it, Joanna. The curtains have closed. The guests are milling out, smiling, chatting, and thanking you for taking them on an incredible night out of the movies. But before you go, it's time for this week's mystery question as we ask, what's in the box?
Oh.
So it's a question that I don't see until we record. Okay. This is funny considering what we were just talking about, and there is no way of knowing that you'd pick Birdman and indeed comment on the state of cinema until right now. So having dipped your toe in the comic book movie world with Legends of Tomorrow, would you ever consider appearing as a superhero in a superhero universe? What are the chances of that?
That is so funny. That is a tough question because I have a wide, I love a lot of different types of films. So if they came to me and they were like, Joe, we really want you to play this like badass character, you get a cool suit, I think I probably would, because I actually really loved doing the CGI stuff. So when I was in Legends of Tomorrow, my character could pull the bones out of her forearms and use them as swords. And it was just so cool to get to do that. And like, I loved doing combat and I loved doing a bit of kind of like the stage fighting and stuff. So I actually think I would really enjoy it as an exercise. And I think also what it then does is it gets your name and your face out there so that you can then, get audiences to come and see other stuff. And I think, again, that's what Birdman kind of comments on is like, butts on seats. Like if people know who you are, they want to come and watch your other stuff. So I think, yes, I'm going to say yes. Okay, yes.
All right, good. Yeah, I appreciate the thought that you gave to that answer. And yes, I think we've arrived at yes, but yeah, that works. Okay. Joanna, that really is it. Your taxi has arrived to ferry you back to reality. But before you leave, let's recap your perfect night out at the cinema. You are going with Stuart at 8 p.m. on a Friday night. Stuart has remembered his glasses, so you're sitting on the back row in the middle. You are having a vegan cheeseburger with fries because there is no wrong moment for a vegan cheeseburger with fries. You picked up a can of ginger beer, you put it back down and picked up a gin and tonic. And then you're going to have some mixed popcorn that you're going to mix yourself because then you get the ratios exactly right. We are putting up posters, first of all, that depicts your fondest movie memory, which was when 30 of you from school went to watch Team America World Police. Your worst movie memory. The poster is for Spider-Man. It was a 12A movie. You got your birth date wrong and you were 10 years old, so you didn't get in. The last performance that brought you to tears is Andrew Garfield in Tick, Tick, Boom. And your unpopular movie opinion ranged from that movie cinemas play, they sound too loud, to actually the prequels of Star Wars are better than the original Star Wars movies. We're watching trailers for Dune Part 2 and Legally Blonde 3, if they actually ever make it, so we can see Jennifer Coolidge on screen again, being brilliant. Your favorite shot from a movie is the creepy-ass swan transformation from Black Swan. Your favorite quote is, "You've always been crazy. This is just your first chance to..." I've butchered it. We all know the quote. We heard it from Joanna. That was your quote. I ruined it. I'm sorry. Next, we're playing Bittersweet Symphony from the end of Cruel Intentions, followed by a movie that I'm yet to watch, but Toothless, the end where Bonnie Tyler, It's a Heartbreak plays over potentially the woman either dying or not dying. To be confirmed. We are then going to watch Birdman. Joanna, thank you for taking us on this trip to the movies. Have you had a good time?
I've had a delightful time. As we've established, I like to be in control. So getting to pick everything was great. But no, thank you so much. That was really, really fun. And I hope that Toothless lives up to expectations.
Thank you so much, and goodbye.